Hi, everybody. It's Alex here with Technology Executives Club with my guest, Justin Grieshop. Hi, Justin. How are you?
Doing great. Great to be here.
Great to have you here. And Justin is the Senior Director of AI and Analytics at CBTS. And Justin is going to present today AI to ROI. Your friction is your opportunity. Watch all of our videos at our website at technologyexecutivesclub.com. And you can find us on your podcast and YouTube. Let's get started. Hi, Justin. Great to see you again.
Great to see you, Alex.
Thanks for doing this. We had that summit last month, and everybody really loved your presentation. It was a great summit. We had a lot of people there, and everybody really loved your presentation. So I appreciate you recording it for those folks who couldn't be at the actual summit. For everybody that doesn't know you, you're at CBTS. You're the Senior Director of AI and Analytics, and I know you're a data scientist. You've been in this area for a long time, and you've worked with AI for a long time. Anybody in data has been working with AI for a long time. And what's interesting to me, just real quickly, you went to Miami University, and then you went to Harvard and got a degree there also, right?
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
That's pretty amazing. So tell us real quickly what this presentation is about.
Enterprises are struggling to get ROI out of AI. There's been a lot of the art of the possible, and what we're trying to do is change that art of the possible into a science. So I'm going to walk through a formula and a way of working on AI that maximizes your chances of getting ROI out of AI. So we're going to collapse the hype and focus on practical solutions and a practical framework that you can deploy inside your enterprise to make tangible progress and drive meaningful value for your business and your customers.
Sounds great.
All right. Thanks, Alex. Right now, it seems like you can't go anywhere without hearing about AI. Everyone's speaking about it. There's significant confusion about how to leverage it for value. You've got management teams and boardrooms telling us, get us into AI. And at the same time, there's this fear of industry disruption. This is culminating in a moment where there's this feeling of everything's moving at breakneck speed, but I'm getting nowhere. And there's a real reason for this. From what we can see, enterprises aren't just struggling to adopt AI, they're struggling to adopt AI strategies that make tangible progress. There was a recent research that came out from MIT that found that 95% of AI projects are failing to realize the ROI that was initially promised. And the reason for this, one of the main reasons for this, is because a lot of the AI hype that has made its way into the market has been largely about the technology itself. And that's a problem because really AI, just like any other technology, isn't here for its own sake. It's here to help us solve business problems. And this is the difference between organizations that are making tangible progress in AI versus those who aren't. So real AI value isn't about chasing hype. It's not about developing dreamware or changing your industry overnight. Real AI value is coming from using AI in the same way we use technology everywhere to solve business problems. So this presentation is going to go through a framework in a way of approaching these problems where you can actually break down use cases in a way that will drive real value, not just for your top line, your bottom line, but your customers, which is really what's going to drive your growth. So the big question right now, is this all hype? Is it real? I hear AI bubble everywhere. I turn on social media, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on X, and I'm hearing all kinds of opinions. But the reality is that while some of it is hype and a lot of it can be, there's real achievers working and making progress right now. The difference between those who are making progress, though, and those who are not, are how they're approaching problems and how they're solving problems. So leaders are really winning by focusing AI on core business functions and making sure that their data and their environment is AI ready. There's a big difference between focusing on getting AI deployed in your organization on problems you're already solving versus trying to develop something completely brand new, completely from scratch. And the difference there, fundamentally, what's going to make the difference between whether or not you're getting value out of the technology versus perhaps you're going to have some shelfware in a few months. So let's talk about that. And I want to break this down a little bit further. So if we look at where AI has gone wrong, right? The industry standard approach to AI has worked somewhat like this over the last 18 months. You get a bunch of people in a room, you lecture at them for about an hour about what AI is. You break them off into groups and you say, okay, now how is AI going to solve all of your problems? That group of people will put together a list. They'll bring it back. That list will get regurgitated to management, and that is your AI roadmap. With respect, I'm not really sure why we thought this would work. Right? The problem with that is value doesn't get created by a person. Value doesn't get created by a team or even a department. Value gets created across the entire enterprise. And the reason this matters is because you need to be thinking about that entire value stream as you're thinking about AI, because AI is going to empower the entire workflow of value delivery for your enterprise. So if you're thinking in terms of individual productivity and team productivity, you are quite possibly, and I would argue most likely, missing the real value of the transformation and the journey that you need to be taking. It's not to say there aren't productivity gains that matter for employees. They do. There's an absolute return on employee. There's an ROE to AI in the workplace, but really value for an enterprise is going to come from collapsing the value stream and delivering AI incrementally in the ways that are serving your customers today. Right. So what we're going to talk about next is not how do you create the greatest dreamware in the world. We're going to talk about how do you deploy this technology in a way that is targeting specifically how you're delivering value to your customers already, and how do you remove the friction that is impeding you from delivering more. So here's in a nutshell the AI to ROI formula. Right? First, you want to identify the value stream that is producing results, a value stream that is producing results for your customers today. You focus on where you're already succeeding. And the reason this matters is because where you're delivering value to customers today is where your ROI is already at. So by focusing on where you're already getting ROI out of your processes and then removing the friction from those processes, you're not just going to deliver on what you're doing, you're going to deliver on what you're doing better. Right? So first, identify the value streams within your organization that are delivering value to your customers today, whether that's top line, whether that's the bottom line, or whether that's the customer experience. Ideally, it's all three. Identify the pain points within that value stream, right? Map the KPIs that you think you can impact. And if you don't know the KPIs, do your best to estimate them, right? And then measure the potential impact. Prioritize your high leverage, high throughput, measurable outputs, and focus on launching small before you scale. This is a formula for success. And we're going to talk a little bit about some use cases and examples of this that fundamentally follow this same path and subsequently deliver ROI and can deliver ROI today. So let's take a look at what this looks like in practice before we go into the use cases. What we've done here is we've actually broken down, and I'm going to go into a quick video here. Well, we've actually broken down the value streams that exist across multiple industries. So here we're going to select technology. We're going to look at a very common process, incident to resolution. And what you're going to see is what we select incident to resolution, we've mapped out every step, right? So we have incident detection, incident logging, incident categorization, so on and so forth. And what you see here is that there's common friction points that exist in almost every enterprise for this process. Whether that's manual data entry or incomplete information, perhaps it's categorization, which is a big problem for machine learning, right? If you understand what those friction points are in this process, and then you map AI and analytics solutions to those friction points, you can remove the friction. And it is that simple, right? Which isn't to say it's easy. Easy and simple are not always the same things, but it is that simple. Mapping AI and analytics solutions to common friction points within your enterprise is the fastest way to ensure that you're not just delivering value, you're really maximizing value for your AI budget. So as you can see here, we can go in and we can map this across every step, and you don't need to necessarily go into every step, but I'd encourage you to look at the areas that are driving friction most. And you want to measure this. So like going back into this process, we'll go back to incident to resolution, right? You have steps within that process, and those steps have a cost. Those steps have friction. And by understanding those steps and understanding how you can impact that friction, this all becomes very formulaic, right? You know your benchmark, you know where you're currently at, you know what your goal is, you know what your volume is, right? Once you understand these things, this becomes a math equation. Very straightforward. This is an exercise that most business leaders do already regularly. Right, so by focusing on the friction points, identifying the potential KPI uplift, and then prioritizing the areas that have the largest potential impact, you can, again, be sure that you're going to be maximizing value and you're going to be hitting ROI. And again, that is the case because you're focusing your use case in areas that are already delivering value today. So this is a big win for organizations who are potentially struggling with how do I manage the sheer how do I manage the sheer volume of potential AI use cases? The best part about AI is it can do so many things. And the worst part about AI is it can do so many things. And a lot of organizations are struggling with where to start. So an example, looking at that last example, so AI and analytics being applied to incident management can have a huge impact. And in this case, it did. Incidents were cut down by over 54% over the course of 12 months, directly impacting the customer experience. And this was, in this particular case, this was actually a known industry problem. So this wasn't simply applying AI and analytics to an open service. This was applying AI and analytics to a very noisy service for a very, very well-known industry challenge. And this can be done. This can be done across, while this can be done across multiple products, this particular product was very noisy and was adding significant costs and directly impacting the customer experience. So the net on this was, of this particular use case, is there was a top line impact because it had favorable results for the customer experience. There was a bottom line impact because it reduced cost, and it simultaneously improved the customer experience across a whole suite of customers. That's the trifecta. Really, if you're thinking about how do I prioritize this type of work, say you've got a number of potential targets, look for the areas that are impacting the top line, bottom line, and customer experience. And if you can find use cases that are impacting all three, that is the true sweet spot. And it's probably a great place to start. Another great use case, and this is one of my favorites, is simplified enterprise search. It probably won't surprise you, but it is still a shocking statistic that a lot of knowledge workers spend an inordinate amount of time doing basic search inside of their enterprise. So the typical knowledge worker spending between 8 to 12% of their time simply seeking out information inside their enterprise. Yeah, so some organizations go as high, that figure goes as high as 30%. That means that a given employee, a knowledge worker, a typical knowledge worker, is spending almost a month a year looking for high quality information inside of their enterprise. That is a shocking statistic. And the thing about it is, this is a fantastic use case for AI, but you have to be smart about how you go about it. This is an example of simplified enterprise search. And this is an example that was deployed inside of our organization. And what we did was we effectively took the very best knowledge resources available inside of our organization, and we leveraged generative AI on top of it. So if you have ever turned on AI inside of your org without curating the data, what you can find is that it doesn't know what to pull or when to pull because there's so much information out there. But as you can see in this example here, I did a search for cloud migration services, and I was able to pull up a white paper in a matter of seconds. I can look for the IT support number. I can look for anything. I can look for certifications that support an employee's career, and I can do all this from a single interface very quickly. These are use cases that, or these are searches that might take me 5, 10, 15 minutes, depending on whether I know where to go and how to get there. And for a lot of employees, this is a significant drain on time, energy, and effort. It's just not a productive use of time. So again, this is friction that exists inside of an organization. These are the hidden costs that slow you down. And what I love about Simplified Enterprise Search is it allows employees to not just focus on what matters, but it alleviates the real bottlenecks, which is the knowledge workers who know the most. Right? So if you're a knowledge worker who knows the most, or you've been a knowledge worker who knows the most inside of your organization at any given point, people are coming to you with questions. You know they're coming to you because you have all of the answers. And this is a very real constraint for individuals who become highly competent inside of their enterprise. Simplified Enterprise Search allows you to get to the right information at the right time, and it eliminates the need to go to another person to get it. It's one of my favorite use cases, and it's one that you can deploy today if you are thoughtful in your design. So just a quick playbook, and I encourage you, take this use case and try it. There are a few use cases I've found that will have a more material impact on employee morale and productivity than Simplified Enterprise Search. So the first thing you do is you organize and you curate the best knowledge, whether that's in your HR policies, whether that's marketing collateral. Organize your best knowledge resources, build an agent, and this is the key. Do not release that agent with access to everything. You need to tell that agent, you may only look here. And this is how you maintain the highest quality information, and it's how you operationalize processes in a way that keeps that data up to date without overburdening existing processes, because you're overburdening with a new process because you're leveraging existing processes to keep that information fresh and live and meaningful. And then you publish to your enterprise communication channels. So whether that's Teams, whether that's Slack, you can even do the web. Publish it in a way that your enterprise users have access to it, and it can be a huge win for your organization, and it's not that difficult to set that up. Again, these are use cases that can get to high ROI really quickly, and this is one of my absolute favorites. And so let's talk a little bit about what we've just seen even in those two use cases. Today, there's a serious disconnect between analytics leaders and AI leaders and the C-suite. So 84% of analytics leaders believe their enterprises today have data stacks that are not going to work well with AI. On the flip side of this, 63% of executives believe their enterprises are already data-driven. So the people who know the most about their data environment are saying, we're not ready. And the people who are helping to drive the decisions on where to go with their data are saying, we're already on the right track. So this disconnect comes down to having the right data foundation. And having the right data foundation, having the right unified data estate is going to be the difference between the organizations who lead, those who follow, and those who get left behind. I can't stress it enough that enterprises who have their data foundation in order are going to be the ones who are not just getting ahead, but are going to be the ones who thrive. And we'll talk quickly about what that really means moving ahead. Let's talk about intentional AI. Again, moving away from the idea that I'm going to transform my industry overnight, moving away from developing out dreamware, I'm going to focus AI on problems that my organization is facing on a day-to-day basis. And I'm going to remove the friction from in the processes that are critical to success. In an era where serving your customers is going to become not just serving your customers effectively and efficiently and in a timely manner is not just going to be important, but critical to the success of any enterprise. Being able to service those customers is going to come down to having the right data foundations in place. At CBTS, we have over 1,000 engineers that work for us, and we work across multiple technology stacks, and we work across basically name your best of breed OEM, IS or ISV, and we are there and we are delivering value for our customers. That means we have a lot of engineers. That means we have a lot of skills. That means we have a lot to track to make sure that the resources in our organization are ready and available to serve customers in a quick manner. And one of the problems that we faced early on was we did not have the means to track those engineers, their availability, their skills, which are constantly evolving, as you can imagine. And we didn't have a way to put this all into one place. So what we did initially was we set up a dashboard. We built visibility into our engineers' availability, into their skill sets, and we made it available to management. And we made it available to our sales team, and we made it available to our operational managers. So the goal here was let's make sure that people know which engineers are available, what skills they have, and help people get to the point where they can decide if an engineer is available and ready to engage on a particular project. And the challenge with this, as you may have experienced in your own organization, is most people, when they are looking for information, are trying to decide, do I go to a person? Do I go to a report? Do I go to a dashboard? What you're seeing here is a very common experience on a user dashboard. And this is the experience most users have when seeking out information. You might have 50 dashboards you have access to. You might have 100 reports that are getting delivered to your inbox. Analytics and AI are coming together in a very meaningful way. And what I mean by that is analytics and AI are really on the same mission. They're on the mission to get the right information to the right people at the right time so that they can make the right decision and get to the right outcome. That's what analytics and AI are doing. Now, we can talk about what analytics and AI are going to mean for machines in a minute, but for right now, we're going to talk about what they mean for people. And that's exactly what analytics and AI is currently solving for. When you have a dashboard that you have to scour through to find information, or I have to remember where it's at, you're really slowing down the end user in a way that is, at this point, frankly, unnecessary. So now, rather than going out to a dashboard and remembering where that's at, or going to a report or sending an email, in this use case, a sales agent, an operations manager, an executive can simply go to this agent. They can look for the relevant skill that they're looking for, whether that's with a particular individual. So I can look up a single individual. I can look for their availability. I could look for a particular skill. If I wanted to look up Java, if I wanted to look up C++, I can look up the skill of the individual or anyone inside the enterprise who has a particular skill. Again, with the goal of serving the customer, which is really what everyone's job is about. So everyone has the same job at the end of the day. Our job is to serve customers. And by serving customers more efficiently and more effectively, what we're really doing is we're speeding up the value stream inside of the enterprise. And that's what this is all about. The speed of AI is fast, but the speed of enterprises is going to move faster and faster as well. What works so well about what you're seeing here is that we didn't simply take an abstract use case. We took a foundational use case, a business process that's getting leveraged hundreds of times a day. We took an existing dashboard, an existing data foundation, and then we leveraged AI on top of that. And this is advice that I give to a lot of leaders. I hear feedback like, I don't think I have a data foundation. And maybe that's true. Maybe you do need help setting up a data foundation, and that's a lot of enterprises. But a lot of enterprises are also leveraging dashboards and they're leveraging analytics. And my advice to them is generally start there. You at least at some point identify your report or your dashboard as being somewhat important to solve some set of problems, right? The chances are there's probably some set of problems that those are still relevant for. If nothing else, you can choose the dashboards and the reports that you know to be valuable and you know are solving problems, and you can leverage generative AI on top of those. And that's a great place to start, if nothing else, than to experiment and see what these capabilities can unlock for your end users. Every business function critical has critical use cases that can be executed on here. So whether you're in marketing, whether you're in legal, whether you're in customer service, there are key business functions that are delivering value across your enterprise and to your customers. Everyone has examples that they can leverage today that will put them on the right track to true AI transformation. And so I know I started this by saying you don't have to revolutionize your industry overnight. But what I would stress to you is if you follow this path, you actually will revolutionize your business. And the reason for that is because the speed at which you're able to deliver value to customers is going to become your competitive advantage. Your data foundation and your confidential data, that is going to be the moat that protects your organization moving forward. It's going to be your competitive advantage. And if you leverage it in the right ways, like we've been talking about here, what it's going to do is it's going to separate you from those who are trying to enter the industry, or perhaps even your competitors who don't have their data foundation and their AI use cases on lock. In my mind, there is not a more critical focus that an enterprise can be working on right now than getting their data foundation in order and making sure that they understand the value delivery to their customers, because this is going to be what separates those silent achievers from those who are feeling disillusioned and not really getting ahead. So I will leave you with this. Let's narrow in on where do I even start? If I'm struggling with, okay, I think I understand what you're saying. You're telling me that to focus on use cases and on business problems that I'm already solving today. You're telling me look for the area that has friction inside of my enterprise, and I need to align AI and analytics to those friction points to help remove them. How do I really think about this in a way that is going to maximize my chance for ROI? Here is the playbook, right? Focus on what has direct proximity to cash, right? Any process that triggers revenue, reduces your cost, or releases working capital is a fantastic place to start. Look for areas that have high decision frequency and repetition. These are typically living with human beings, potentially even with systems or machines, but these are great areas to focus on high throughput. Even if you're only increasing the quality of the decision you're making with AI, that in itself can be a significant uplift. So it can even be an automated task that you have baked into your systems today. Focusing on areas with high frequency and repetition is a big boon, because if you can improve the quality of the decision and you're doing that on a high enough frequency basis, you're going to be improving how you're operating overall. And lastly, focus on the bottlenecks in your value delivery. This is the big one. At the end of the day, you're not aiming to simply remove one or two friction points. At the end of the day, these entire workflows will be at least supplemented by AI, if not entirely managed by AI. So you want to be focused on the bottlenecks that are holding you back today, because you will want agentic workflows going end to end and collapsing that value stream so that you can deliver immediate value to customers anytime on demand. The business to agent economy is coming. It's already here. And organizations that have their data foundation in order and organizations that are set up to do business with agents are going to be the ones who get to experience the B2A economy, which McKinsey is saying could be as much as 5 trillion globally by 2030. It is going to fundamentally shape how commerce is done as we move into the future, and organizations that are getting ready now are going to be the ones to get ahead. So there's probably not a more important activity that an enterprise can be focused on right now than getting that data foundation to work. Thank you, Alex. That is the presentation.
That was great. So I got a couple questions. And so what I'm hearing is, in fact, I think the slide, go back a couple, it says key process by business function. It sounds to me you start here. That's what I'm hearing. And you say, where's the money? That's what I'm hearing. Where's the money? And it's either revenue or expenses in your business processes. You look for those biggest areas where any kind of incremental change can make a difference, a delta that's significant enough worth looking at. And that's where you start. Am I hearing you right?
Yeah, absolutely. Making sure that you've got a focus on the areas that you're already achieving ROI today, and then removing that friction is where we're seeing real success in across industries.
Gotcha. So this is using AI agents to basically reduce the friction in the key business processes that are already there.
Absolutely.
All right. And what that will do is either increase revenue, decrease expense, or provide better customer service. That's what I heard.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And because a lot of people struggle, oh my God, I'm thinking about this is a form of digital transformation. Because what it does is it accelerates the ability of your enterprise to do its job. That's the essence.
Correct. Nailed it.
Yeah. So I think I got it.
Great.
Let's look at that slide between what the executives think their data is and the analytics leaders think their data is. This slide seems very, very key to me too. I hear about data readiness, and you're saying bottom line, most people really aren't ready.
Correct.
Yeah. So you can do the analysis on your business processes, but in parallel, you have to be looking at your data. And if you don't have the team to do it, you got to get somebody in to help you right now.
There's probably not a more critical focus for any enterprise right now than exactly that.
I would agree. And because your competitors are doing it. That's the bottom line.
Yes.
And you can find projects that will give you great return on investment now. We've covered a number of them. You gave us a couple examples. We had one company that was at the summit, and they talked about a significant increase in ROI in the millions for increasing the throughput of their RFP process. And that's exactly the kind of use case that you were talking about. It's something they were already doing. They identified it was a lot of money and they were missing out on opportunities, and they were able to get more revenue, and thus more profit. And that's what you were talking about. So that was an example of that. But the bottom line is they had data ready to do that.
Yes.
And if you don't have data ready to do that, you can find all the opportunities in the world, but if your data's not ready, it's not going to work. So it seems to me that's the two things that I heard. Did I hear that correctly? The two main things.
Yeah. In a nutshell, don't focus on the technology, focus on your business. And focusing on your business means focusing on getting your data foundation set. And you don't have to have all of your data in pristine condition. That's a big misconception that I think there's a lot of organizations that hit that stumbling block. What you need are really solid gold data sets sitting atop your critical business functions. You do not need everything in perfect order to get started. You need your most critical business functions in order, and you need to start there.
That makes a lot of sense. So if you go back to your formula, we'll close on that. Find the most important business processes that give you proximity to the cash. And so you take this, that it happens enough that it's worth it, and reduce the friction. That's basically what you're saying. That makes a
Yes.
lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Oh, so
Right.
this is, I would look at this as digital transformation 2.0.
I
So
think you're right.
yeah. So we're already doing digital. I've heard this from other people too. We've gone through digital transformation, but this is an opportunity to digitize even at a higher level to really accelerate the key business processes. That is a big deal. And that's what you're saying.
And the real point here, and we didn't spend too much time on this today, but the real
Yeah.
point here is that the business to consumer model, the business to business model is big. It's been everything. But the business to agent model is going to be fundamentally different. It's going to be fundamentally different. And it's going to require exactly this. It's going to
Mm,
require that data foundation to be set because a human being is motivated by a story, a feeling. That AI agents are going to work based on the availability of the data. They're going to work based off of the trust score. They're going to make decisions based off of what information can I validate. It's going to fundamentally change buyer behavior, and it's already happening. And organizations that don't have their data foundation in order to get that ready, or to embrace that market, are going to be the ones who are struggling to compete.
So let's talk about that for a second, then we'll close it out. So in the near future and the future, I'll think simply, right? In the future, near future, purchasing is going to use more agents to at least identify the top three targets.
Right.
Okay, so what you're saying is if your agents are talking to those agents, you're not even in the mix.
If your data foundation isn't in order to talk to those agents, you're not even in consideration.
That's what I'm saying. You're not even being
Yep.
considered. Yeah. So the future is more agents on both sides of the transaction.
And because it's not going to stop at business to agent, it's eventually going to go agent to agent. And that's where things are going to go completely parabolic.
I see that. I see that. And so there's a lot of trust here that people are going to figure out the fact that LLMs are 68% and that agents will work. But I do think that people will figure that out. We saw someone in our presentation talk about a solution they were proposing. So I do think that will be figured out at some point. What's your take on that?
I think that's going to be the case. And even where agents aren't entirely accurate, there will be agents checking agents. So that's a very easy workflow to set up even today, let alone what it will look like in a couple of years.
That makes a lot of sense. All right, listen, this has been great. We can obviously talk for a long time. We don't have the time. Thanks again, Justin. We appreciate you doing this. This has been Alex Jarrett with Technology Executives Club with Justin Grieshop, who's the Senior Director of AI Analytics at CBTS. And his presentation was AI to ROI. Your friction is your opportunity. Justin, thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Great to be here.
Appreciate you giving the presentation, everybody. And again, as a reminder, visit us at technologyexecutivesclub.com.